Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of Across STEM with YSI, where we highlight the journeys, ideas, and real-world impact of the incredible speakers behind STEMQuest 3.0, which just concluded last weekend. I'm your host, Amir Ali, and today is all about how students actually break into emerging fields like neurotechnology, even when the path isn't obvious. Our guest for this episode is Joshua Thomas Carter, joining us from the United Kingdom. Joshua recently spoke at STEMQuest 3.0, where he led session number 25, Journey into Neurotechnology, Lessons and Advice. In this insightful session, Joshua shared his path from being a psychology undergraduate to working hands-on with neurosimulation for cognitive enhancement, and just as importantly, how students from any background can begin finding their place in neurotech. Joshua's talk directly addressed a question that many students struggle with, and that is, I'm interested in this field, but how do I actually start? Rather than presenting neurotechnology as something distant or inaccessible, Joshua broke it down into something practical, learnable, and that is driven by curiosity and initiative. He shared lessons from his very first year in Neurotech, including winning an enterprise award for Neurotech business idea, contributing to a book chapter, and building a student-led Neurotech society from scratch at his university. So, who is Joshua Thomas Carter beyond his STEMQuest talk? Joshua is currently a Bachelor of Science Psychology student at the University of Surrey in Guildford, England. Alongside his studies, he is the founder and president of the Surrey Neurotech Society, where he has been spearheading student-driven research, education, and community building in neurotechnology. What makes Joshua's journey especially compelling is that it's just at the start. I mean, it hasn't fully developed yet. It is still unfolding, which makes it so incredibly exciting. And his story reminds us that you don't need to be years into a career to start contributing to cutting-edge fields. And especially something like neurotech, I mean, it's still a very developing field in itself. It's very new, and there's still lots to discover and innovate. So you just need the willingness to learn, to ask questions constantly, and take initiative, like Joshua is. So today in this episode of Across STEM with YSI Season 2, we'll explore Joshua's journey into neurotechnology, what he's learned in his first year working in the field, and his advice for students who want to get involved but don't know where to begin. All right, Joshua, welcome to Across STEM with YSI. How are you doing today, and where are you joining us from?
Thanks for inviting me on. It's great to be here. I'm joining you from my house in Guildford currently. I'm doing very well. It's like I said, it's amazing to be on here and to kind of talk more about this really exciting area, something I'm really passionate about, and to actually give some advice to people who have been in my position, who are in my position that I used to be in, hopefully I can share some guidance that's useful.
Amazing, looking forward to it. All right, so we've moved inside and continuing the podcast here. So you titled your STEMQuest session Journey into Neurotechnology. Before we get into the more technical side, how do you usually explain what neurotechnology is to someone encountering it for the first time?
Yeah, so neurotechnology is one of those fields that can sound quite sci-fi, and I think many people probably still think of it as kind of like this kind of outlandish idea. But no, it's real. It's existed for decades. So it's important to definitely ground it into reality, especially how important it's going to be. Neurotechnology is the interaction between technology and the brain, very simply. This is to either record it, so using methods such as brain imaging, so you get MRI scans and EEG, which records the electrical signals, to altering its function, which just means changing it in a way, kind of steering it in a way that we want it to go, right? So it could be restored function to an area or to enhance ability, for example. So improving sustained attention or language acquisition or maths learning, for example.
Cool, that's a very simple way to explain it, and I think all of our viewers will understand. Not too technical, but really encapsulates what Neurotech is all about. You started out as a psychology undergraduate. What initially drew you to psychology and the study of the brain?
Yeah. So, psychology, I'd been fascinated by psychology ever since I was a kid, right? My mum is a counselor and she worked at the time at a mental health hospital. So, you know, from a kid, I was really interested in the clinical side of it. So, conditions such as like schizophrenia and personality disorders, depression, anxiety. I, spend a bit of my free time researching these conditions and understanding them because I found it so fascinating. Up until that point, I never really learned about conditions, and it's one of the, I think, very, what's the word, like innate and basic questions all humans have as why is a person acting this way? Why are they like this? How have they come to be? And psychology addresses that question, right? So, yeah, from a very young age and interested in clinical and having this innate desire to understand why people are the way they are. That really pushed me into psychology. I finally got the opportunity to study that at around age 16 to 18. And I was in love with it straight away. Yeah. And then neurotechnology itself, it's always been in the back of my head. I heard about companies like Neuralink, seeing what they were doing. I thought it was really interesting. And it happened in second year where I was looking through my options, and Neurotech was the kind of wilder card path. And after a conversation with a friend, I went straight into it. I knew that was the field I wanted to be in.
Interesting. And that conversation with the friend, I mean, conversations with friends can be so impactful that now you are doing things in neurotechnology and you have your own society at your university that you're leading. It's incredible where it's led to and where it will lead to from here. So in your session in STEMQuest, you spoke about how daunting it can be to break into a field like neurotech. And I'm curious, what are some of the biggest uncertainties or challenges that you faced early on?
Yeah, good question. So when I was searching for my placement opportunity, neurotech was still maturing. It still is now, but it was more immature than now, right? And my university, the University of Surrey, is really good at employment and placement schemes. But for this specific industry, because of how niche it was, they didn't have partnerships with neurotech labs and companies. So I couldn't follow the structured route of finding a job listing that I liked and sending my CV and applying away an X amount of days to hear back from them. I had to go the unstructured route. I had to forge my own path. I was cold emailing people on LinkedIn and Outlook, going through university pages, finding these professors who are in the neurotech field and emailing them, finding these startups and companies through LinkedIn and Google. So the hardest part definitely was first just getting in the door, finding an opportunity, and pursuing it in a way that was unstructured.
Absolutely, and especially reaching out to people, cold DMing, cold emailing, it's so incredibly, and this sounds niche, but it's really the way to go in a lot of scenarios, whether it's finding labs or trying to reach out to someone to talk to them even about opportunities that exist in a field like neurotech, or getting to work with them uh, in neurotech or another field. It's just, it goes, I think, beyond, let's say, applying for some kind of position or applying for some kind of opportunity, because it's more intimate. It's, you directly reaching out to someone, and you're reaching out to them for a reason, because they have experience in that field, they have knowledge, or they might be able to connect you with someone else. And it's a nice way to not only connect with them, but also learn a lot about themselves and their journeys into something like neurotech. It's something that I think, especially in university, you'll understand more just how powerful it could be. Now, during your first year in neurotechnology, you've already had some major milestones, from winning an enterprise award for a neurotech business idea to even contributing to a book chapter. What lessons did these experiences teach you about learning by doing?
Yeah, really good
Question. I'd say the biggest lesson was that you'll never be 100%. You'll never be perfect. You'll never have the right amount of knowledge or the right amount of experience to go and pursue or do something. It's just all about having the will to adapt and to try, right? You're gonna have opportunities come along, like I have, of contributing to like book chapters and entering enterprise programs and having my own neurotech company idea, where you're not gonna have every piece of knowledge in the world that you need, and every bit of experience you need, and every ounce of confidence, but all you need is the will to keep going, to be persistent, and to go, look, I'm not going to get everything right. I'm not perfect, but I'm going to adapt. I'm going to give it my all, and I'm not going to give up. So that's the biggest lesson that I have from my placement year.
Yeah, and that lesson, that advice really goes a long way, because you really never will be ready. I mean, there's no reason to wait around, to just wait for the right moments, because the right moments will never come. You should pursue things. Don't be afraid of pursuing things. If it's new to you, if it's foreign to you, something like neurotech. I mean, most people who enter the field, it's something foreign to them in a lot of ways. And even you, coming from a psychology degree and having that knowledge of psychology and neuroscience, there's still a lot that was unknown to you, a lot of unknown terms, and a lot of technical things that might have not made sense to you in the beginning. And I mean, that's okay. You would have never learned them if you never pursued neurotech in the first place. So that's why it's just so important to go for things, try things. Don't be afraid of doing that, because if you just wait around for the right time, I mean, you might never do something, and that's just a wasted opportunity and wasted potential. So you founded the Neurotech Society in Surrey and built a students' neurotech community from scratch, essentially. And I'm curious, what really motivated you to start this society, and what have you learned about leadership throughout this process?
Yeah, it was completely from scratch. It's the first one ever at the university. The idea was bouncing around my head for months before I even started my placement in the summer. I was thinking, it'd be really cool if there was a neurotech society at Surrey. I really wanted to meet like-minded people, because I saw the different kind of institutes and the degrees that are at the university, the biosciences, the computer science department, and the kind of neuroscience interest we have here. And I thought, there is surely the opportunity to converge these fields and have these people who are interested in neurotech So my primary motivation was definitely just to meet like-minded people and to foster a space where we could discuss neurotech for the first time under like an official banner, because before uh, there was no neurotech institute or group or community explicitly dedicated to just neurotech. Um,
Regarding
Leadership,
lessons,
I would say
yeah, I mean,
it's tough
being a
leader and stepping into that role, especially when you haven't had that experience before. I've never run a society or a group or anything, so this idea of hosting these events and standing in front of a room full of people was alien to me, and it made me uncomfortable, right? But
you've just got to
that the discomfort fades and it gets better and easier to step into that leadership role. So for people watching who are thinking, I'd like a neurotech society or group at my university or where I live in my country, and maybe you haven't been a leader before, or you're not really familiar with that kind of area, just do it. just do it. Just have the willingness to adapt and to persevere. And it gets easier.
Gets easier. Yeah, I mean, stepping into that leadership role and developing a kind of society, especially that did not exist before at your university. And I think still, I mean, neurotech societies are not a big thing at universities. I haven't seen it a lot. And to have the courage to do that, to have the will to, step into that role and to also give like some, big talks as well, which was not traditionally your thing. I think it's really inspiring to see that, and the impact that such a community can have, it really goes beyond any sort of impact that a single person can have, because in these communities, I mean, you cultivate new connections, you meet people you probably never thought you'd meet before, a lot of really intellectual-minded people, and you get to create with them, collaborate with them, and learn from them. It's just such a powerful way of connecting people who have a shared love and passion for something. And I'm glad to see that you started something like this at your university, and I'm excited to see what kind of impact it will have from here on. It's had a great impact so far, and I think you're talking about this, you're collaborating with Imperial in London and UCL and etc. So it's cool, because when you connect with all these other societies and you collaborate with them across the country, it can really lead to great things and great innovations in the field, especially if someone from a young age gets involved in something like this, a society like this. It really exposes them to all these fantastic opportunities. So a big theme of your STEMQuest talk was also accessibility, and specifically showing students that neurotech isn't just for engineers or PhDs. What kind of backgrounds do you think actually thrive in neurotechnology the most?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Interesting, because as obviously president of the Neurotech Society, I see the subjects people have when they're coming into the society, either as just a member or a committee member. It's mostly bioscience students and like biomed, and then I'd say it's psychology and computer science, and it's really interesting because obviously these are really different fields. The
unifying
aspect, I think, is
the desire to kind of
understand and interact with the brain, to maybe they're just really fascinated by the brain and understanding, consciousness, for example, which is how the brain works, or treating a condition such as Alzheimer's. That is the unifying, aspect of all these people across these degrees, is this really fervent interest in the brain, and this curiosity with neuroscience. And then I think the thrive in the field, have this desire to, this passion for the brain, right? And
I
guess also a fascination with technology and AI as well would probably be the secondary
an interest I see
people have when they come into Neurotech.
Interesting. And for students, I mean, it doesn't have to be bioscience students or psychology or neuroscience, whatever, any student really listening, who are curious but unsure where to start, what are some practical first steps that you think they can take to get involved in neurotech or interdisciplinary fields?
Definitely first step.
Gain knowledge. So read books, watch videos, read papers. Even if you have to do what I did on my placement and Google each word every 3 sentences of the papers, it takes time. But yeah, just build your own knowledge, because it's important for you to understand the field you're interested in. But it's also the bridge you use to connect with others, leading on to my second point of immersing yourself in community. When you go to physical events, symposiums and hackathons and expert talks, you share knowledge and you share your interests with other people, like-minded people, and that builds relationship, it builds rapport. I think it's undersold, the social aspect of industries like neurotech. It's so important to be in a community, so you see the job listings that are going on, or the latest developments, or the papers you wouldn't have seen if you weren't in those communities, because you are surrounding yourself with like-minded people who see neurotech from a different angle you do, and see things you don't. So it's really important to join a community, so these opportunities that are available you're able to see and then take. This podcast is happening because we saw each other on LinkedIn. We connected because we're interested in neuroscience, and now we're doing a podcast. So that really conveys the tangible effect it has, where you're just following like-minded people on LinkedIn. So yeah, definitely have an online presence. Use platforms like LinkedIn to connect with others, even people you don't initially know, and to join community chats and societies, and go to events nearby where you can. I travel to London quite a bit for events, so yeah, location, community, and build your knowledge.
Absolutely. It's so powerful going to events like symposiums and hackathons, and even connecting with people on LinkedIn, which is, super accessible. It really can't do any harm, and some of the most amazing people you'll meet is in these spaces. And I think in such a day and age where we have access to the internet and technology and everything, and we have so much information at our fingertips, I don't think that we have much excuses to say, I didn't know about this opportunity. You have to pursue it yourself, but a lot of it, you'll find out even by something like going on LinkedIn, or even going on your university's website. They probably have some resources and places to find opportunities, but also being active yourself and reaching out to professors, to people to connect with and learn from, and even to get advice. Really could be for anything. It's just so incredibly valuable because we're able to talk to some of the even leading scientists in a field like neurotech and learn from them and maybe even collaborate with them on something. It's so incredibly valuable, I think, just in the internet technology as a whole, if used for the right reasons. And this is one of them. I mean, this is one of the most impactful ways to get involved in a field, such an exciting field like neurotech, and to meet people who could really change the trajectory of your life. It really comes down to that. And you just shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't think you're underqualified or you don't have the knowledge or expertise to get involved in this field. I mean, everyone starts at zero. So there's no excuse in that sense, especially if you're, a really young person. Absolutely, you have nothing to lose. So I hate it when I see someone, has so much potential and they don't go for it. They don't reach out to people when they can. Just do it. There's nothing to lose, nothing to be afraid of, and have the courage and have the passion to learn from others and to connect with others without restraining yourself just because you think you are not qualified for something. Now, neurotechnology is, because it's such a new field, and there's still little known about it really in the grand scheme of things, it raises big ethical and societal questions, especially as it intersects with cognition and enhancement. How do you think young people should approach responsibility as they enter this space?
Yeah, I mean,
responsibility should be central, right? A big aspect of neurotech obviously is it's often delivered through startups and companies, right? And the Silicon Valley inspired approach for the last 2 decades has been to, as Zuckerberg famously said, move fast and break things. In this context, we should not be moving fast and breaking things because it is people's brains, right? That's what you'd be breaking. So we really need to recenter ethics and philosophy. I mean, I feel like the philosophy of ethics has been really neglected in recent years. Philosophy degrees have kind of been considered, useless. They're not. They're really important, and this is where you need people with these degrees in your company, in these companies, in government bodies, for example, regulating neurotech, because it can be used for good and it can be used for bad. We are human beings running this field. There are people who are responsible and people who carry out things irresponsibly. So it's important that we have these debates and conversations and have these regulations and laws and discussions all in place to minimize harm. We are seeing, really incredible innovations in neurotech currently, like the restoration of autonomy in people with ALS through, Synchron and, Neuralink. People who are paralyzed and haven't been able to say "I love you" to their family members for years are able to do that through a computer with an AI enhanced version of their voice that they've lost. It's having this really powerful impact already in a positive way. The promising neurostimulation research, painless, non-invasive, electrical neurostimulation that bolsters learning and attention, from language acquisition to maths and arithmetic learning.
you're seeing
The potential to close these inequality gaps. But if misused, you could see widened inequality. For example, the philosopher Nick Bostrom posit the idea of cognitive elites. So people who have access to wealth have an ease of accessing cognitive enhancement, as opposed to people who have less wealth and can't access these schemes and technology. So this could shut people out of job listings, for example, if cognitive enhancement is expensive and you have companies that will only hire people who have cognitive enhancement, that are going to be workers that are able to learn quicker and to stay attentive for longer, etc. You're going to see gaps on a cognitive level that we haven't seen before in the inequality sense. It's going to go from, not just financial and, kind of social, but to now on a actual physiological level in the form of cognition. So it's really important that we recenter philosophy, ethics, and responsibility in a field like neurotech.
Certainly. I mean, it's such an incredibly important topic in something like neurotech because, yeah, you're dealing with people's brains. It's no joke. I mean, if used for therapeutic purposes, let's say, sure, in a lot of cases, I mean, the benefits could outweigh the risks. If someone has, let's say, a loss of motor function and you want to restore, and that's caused by brain damage in their motor cortex, and you want to restore function by implanting some kind of chip that helps, restore the function of your motor cortex and that movement that you weren't able to do before. But I mean, if we don't understand the risk, no matter how small, and we implant these chips, I mean, that could lead to even bigger problems, really, because different people could react differently to these implants because of their immune system, after all, recognizes it as something foreign and will attack it, and that could damage parts of the brain, which could be incredibly dangerous and even fatal. So it's really no joke, and it's a field where we just have to know a lot more about for everything from the neuroscience to the tech aspect before we actually start implanting chips and making therapeutic devices widespread and available to the general population. There's still a lot more that needs to be understood. The risks had to be understood a lot more before we start doing any of this, because again, it's the brain. It's no joke. It's real humans we're dealing with here. And at the moment, I think we still need a lot more information before we begin to implement anything. And that's really, it's a natural thing, I think, for such a new field like neurotech. I mean, neuroscience itself, I mean, there's so much we still haven't discovered yet. So when you consider all of this, you see just how important ethics is when it comes to neurotech, and the reason why we should be having more of these conversations in university lectures, in labs, in societies like the society that you lead. It's very important to have these discussions and debates about ethics, because neurotech is probably one of those fields where ethics really should be at the top of topics to be discussing as really a global society, because it's something that's being pursued everywhere in the world pretty much now, and people have to understand the risks that are involved as they enter the field from the beginning. Looking ahead, where do you personally hope to grow next? Do you want to go deeper into research? Do you want to go into entrepreneurship, community building, or something else entirely?
I mean, all the things
You mentioned are things I'm very kind of interested in and have weighed up. When it comes to kind of planning my next move, I go through all these different paths and
really,
put myself in these paths and figure things out and compare. And in 6 months' time or so, I am approaching my graduation from my degree. So this is definitely a fork in the road, pivotal moment for me where I figure out, right, what do I do next? I have considered, all these things, the community building side, or you know, doing a PhD. Do I need more knowledge in Neurotech? Do I need more time developing like a prototype or something? Or do I go straight into entrepreneurship? Are things in place? Is funding there? Is investment there? Do I have support? Is the prototype ready? I have always been fascinated by entrepreneurship. I have always felt that is the path that self-actualizes me. I am really passionate about it. I think it's a way, in a career sense, where you can really see the impact you have, and you can deliver it like really quickly, especially compared to academia. I definitely think entrepreneurship is my preferred route. So yeah, I just got to get the things in place, and hopefully the stars align, and yeah, hopefully I can be leading my own company or joining one. We'll see.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm excited to see where your journey heads from here, and yeah, hopefully you'll be leading something like Neuralink or greater than Neuralink in the near future, because you've already been cultivating spaces where people can grow in neurotech. You've grown so much in neurotech yourself, and you've done a lot in the field already, and I can see you leading bigger things even from here, and changing the world through neurotech, because again, it's such an exciting field. It's just so fascinating, and it's exciting to see how people like you are contributing to it from a young age, and it just makes you imagine how far you can go into the field, in the next 5-10 years and beyond. And speaking about your future too, I mean, you've also worked hands-on with neurostimulation for cognitive enhancement. And I'm curious, do you see yourself doing more of this in the near future? And what has the experience itself been like? I mean, and how did you go from theory to practical involvement in the first place? And was it something that you enjoyed, and that, again, do you see yourself doing more of in the future?
Cognitive enhancement
Definitely is my area at the minute. It is something I focused on during my placement, and it's my dissertation for this year as well, as part of my final year degree. It is also what my enterprise award was built around in the summer 2025. So this is a domain I'm definitely focusing on and reading even more papers on. It never ends. There's always something you need to learn. There's more to know. You think you have it figured out and go, oh, this idea is amazing, and then you start developing it or making it, and then you find like another paper that you didn't even know was there, and you swore you scoured the internet, but they just keep appearing. There's always something to learn. So yeah, when it comes to translation from theory to actually hands-on, I mean, it happened quite quickly. In the first month of my placement, I was assisting in a language acquisition, non-invasive neurostimulation study. So, prepping the participants, putting the EEG cap on, applying the conductive gel for the electricity to go through the scalp. It was, yeah, it was weird. I never took part in research before. That was my first time, and it's very obviously
Interesting, actually.
do it hands on and see. It's like being in the kitchen, right, and seeing how the food is made, rather than sitting at the table at the restaurant. It's a completely different experience. Yeah, I definitely want to stay in this area and hopefully conduct some more research and to see kind of the behind the scenes aspect of it is really fascinating to be a part of, and it's exciting.
It sounds very exciting, honestly, and it's cool to see that you've done this. You know, there's more practical aspects of neurotech, and I'm excited to see you doing more in this area, and maybe starting a whole company that's geared towards it, a startup. That would be very cool to see, and yeah, I'm curious to witness that journey of yours from here on. Finally, if you could go back and speak to yourself before entering Neurotech, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, I mean,
I would say straight away, email Roy Cohn Kadosh, who I ended up doing the placement under. He is a neurotech professor at the university. Moved from Oxford a few years ago. I didn't know he was there. I must have missed a page when I was like looking through the university when I was trying to find a placement. The placement's been everything I've imagined and more. It's been absolutely brilliant. And I was going through all these different university sites, like external ones in London and stuff, and going and messaging people in startups and companies. This went on for months, and it turns out the opportunity was in the office. I probably walked past, tens of times on campus. So my first bit of advice would definitely, email Roy straight away.
No. Very cool to hear that. Well, Joshua, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sad this brings us to the end of the episode. I mean, it's been an interesting episode from starting outside and then coming in because of connection issues, internet issues, but also hearing about, neurotech, which is something that really fascinates me a lot, and I've seen all the things that you post about on LinkedIn, and all the exciting things that you're doing as part of the Surrey Neurotech Society. And I'm glad to now be able to speak to you as the founder of it and to learn more about you after your STEMQuest talk. And you are really an emerging voice in neurotechnology who reminds us that careers in STEM do not begin with certainty, but they begin with curiosity and action. I mean, when you entered neurotech, you didn't know you didn't know most things really. Reading those papers, you had to, as you said, every 3 lines, search up terms on Google. But it's fascinating. It's really inspiring to see that you enter this field with such passion that you were just guided by your curiosity and by action, by reaching out to so many people, trying to learn more about the neurotech and how to get more involved in it and what you can do in the field. And I hope whoever is trying to enter such an emerging new field like neurotech does what you did and is guided by curiosity and action again, not by certainty. And you, from transitioning into neurotechnology, from psychology and to working hands-on neurostimulation, winning enterprise awards, contributing to a book chapter, you've done so much, and the biggest thing you've done is building a student neurotech community at university. So I can't help but be excited about what you're going to do from here and how your journey will unravel from today. And so far, your journey has really shown what is possible when students stop waiting for a perfect path. It simply does not exist, or a perfect time. and they begin to create their own path and carve it out along the way. And to me, what stands out most is your emphasis on access, the idea that neurotechnology is not a closed field, but it is one that is shaped by learners, by collaborators, young innovators who can't stop themselves from asking questions and who are willing to take the first step. So I'm really glad again to be able to talk to you and to learn more about your journey. And I've been really inspired myself to dive deeper into neurotech. And I mean, even though I don't have a lot of knowledge in it, that does not matter. I'm still young and I am able to ask questions, and that's, I think, what matters most. Curiosity is really should be the thing that guides you more than anything. Of course, along with taking action and reaching out to people and asking them about different things and trying to learn more about the field. So I hope to maybe start my own Neurotech Society as well and go forth from there. Joshua, before wrapping up, is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience, or maybe perhaps leave a message for students who are interested in emerging fields but are unsure of where they belong or where to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think
You put it perfectly. Be driven by curiosity and not certainty. I'm
Yeah.
inspired by that myself. I think that you put it so brilliantly then. Yeah, I think everyone watching, if you're interested in neurotech, even if you're not 100% sure on knowledge or confidence in running events, get involved, join a community, set up a society. I can't wait to see the one you set up, hopefully. It'd be great to see. Yeah, get involved. I think it's really rare you get a field like this that's going to be so impactful in so many lives and day-to-day lives of so many people, where you can enter at the ground level before it explodes and potentially becomes harder to get into and more inaccessible. Hopefully that doesn't become the case, but you see it a lot
in different areas.
Yeah, seize the opportunity, carpe diem, get in the field, and yeah, hopefully many people watching this will contribute to the innovations in neurotech.